set us up here. Just have a little think. Okay, so I'll just put it on the screen as well, so we've got it as a kind of nice reminder. So, to achieve global success, do the BBC and Disney need to slay fandom? I'm being provocative, of course. You'd think they were trying to slay fandom with what's been said recently, that they're trying to provoke us. I know Russell Davies has also, in his discussions and interviews, sometimes sounded as though he does want to get us in a bit of a state, but partly linking with what we were saying earlier, and my conclusion from what some of us were saying earlier is that actually fandom does need to be ignored, whether it's for global success or whether it's just for the brand and just for a good story. But where do people stand on this one? That actually fans have had too much say. We've referred to certain people in the past in the 80s having too much sway. This idea that you've got different classes of fans, really, those in power, those who have a network, those who seem to think they can touch fame, and those of the rest of us, the not-we's, who just watch the show. Where do you stand? Do you think fandom has had too much sway and it's about time fandom was just ignored now?
I think the big problem, obviously, is that we're in such a different media age that, sort of like the very fact that we can do this the day after, sort of like there's been a special and we can analyze stuff, and obviously there's what happens on Twitter, and there's all the message boards, all the things across the world. That's I think we get to see a lot more of fandom than we ever would previously. I think, I was trying to think about this, and I was putting on a different fan's hat. So I put on my Star Trek fan hat.
Yeah.
And from my point of view, I think what Star Trek's done is perfectly fine. I think it sort of like the reinvention of that has worked incredibly well. I think it's now doing a sort of classic problem, though, which is every generation. I could do a Buffy fan hat as well, but every generation becomes its own fandom that needs to be slain.
Yeah.
So I think that the problem is probably not sort of like those of us who have been watching it for however long. It's those who will be watching it, who have been watching it over the last 5 years, and I'm not writing them down. I'm just sort of saying that that's when I think you get overly protective whenever it's that, and it has to be constantly reinventing itself. And as I said, it has to appeal to the kids of the people who watched it in 2005, not the guys that watched it in 2005.
Yeah. Niall, how far? I mean, I don't feel powerful as a fan myself, but how far should we just be put back in our box and let's hit the world? Let's reach out to other countries who haven't really discovered Doctor Who yet.
I think that's quite a binary question.
I know.
Because when we're talking about slaying fans, so first of all, I'm thinking, well, what counts as a fan? If you're a regular viewer, you watch it like every week, but you'll say you're not on a Gallifrey base and you're not into Big Finish. Are you a fan? Like, what counts as a fan, first off? And also, when we talk about slaying fandom, what does that mean? Are we talking about totally destroying fandom? I don't know. I think fandom shouldn't control the show. It doesn't work. I think what works is having a team of writers and producers that understand the media landscape, that are able to write good, intelligent stories that are within the vein of Doctor Who, i.e. a Time Lord in a TARDIS righting wrongs. I think that for any show to be popular and talking about things like globalization, I think the danger isn't so much the fans, the danger is about Doctor Who losing its identity. And I think that Doctor Who intrinsically is a British show. I think the Doctor can be anyone and anything. That doesn't scare me, but I think that the flavour of the show has to be about being British, about the kind of idiosyncrasies and the humour. So I guess really what I'm saying is actually BBC in Disney. I think it's not about ignoring fandom, but not pandering to it either. I think if you've got a good story,
how far
go with
are
it.
you detected? Do you think we're all finding a conspiracy theory in fandom with this, for example, that logo there, Disney Who, that actually what's happening to Doctor Who, it is changing and it is becoming, well, you said about being British and having an essence of that the Britishness that was a successful formula. Do you think we are losing that? Do you sense something's changing, or do you think we're finding a problem when it's not there?
No, I don't think we're losing it. I think, but I'm just saying that I think it would be easy for Doctor Who to be swallowed up by all the other shows kind of on the Disney platform and to almost get Americanized. But I don't think that's happening. And I don't think there's any kind of conspiracy. I kind of think that actually, you know, one of the things, I think I read it recently, that one of the things that attracted Disney to kind of buy in was the flavour of the show. So it's in their interest to make sure that that flavour remains. Yeah.
I mean, recently here we've had Davros has got to be changed. We don't know if that's the BBC, Russell Davies, because we're in 2023, or because of Disney. There's theories out there, but we've got examples, haven't we? How I'm sure we're seeing that the programme seems to be slightly changing or readjusting. Where do you stand on this, Hugh? Do you sense there's something going on here?
I mean, I think there are generic changes which are not just to do with Disney taking it over, not just to do with anything else. I saw something which a cousin of mine actually put up, which was to do with The Simpsons. My cousin has had breast cancer. I don't want to bring this down because it's a serious point. Has had breast cancer and therefore has had a mastectomy. And one of the characters, just a passing character in The Simpsons, had obviously had a mastectomy. And she said that was very powerful. And I don't think that that's anything other than a sensible way of doing things. And I have difficulties with a lot of the politics that Russell Davies has. But, you know, I think that some of what the change is inevitable, whether it was made by the BBC, whether it was less money in it, whether it wasn't Russell Davies coming back, whoever. Those are just changes in society, and how Doctor Who takes that on, I think, is it has to take it on head on, and it has to be part of the stories, and it has to be examined properly in terms of that. I think sometimes it's done way too often as tokenism, and that's problematic. But you know, within that, I look at what the casting decisions are so far. We're, you know, sort of for Christmas, it seems to be much the same show in terms of that. It seems to be doing similar things. You know, I don't see there's any problem having Neil Patrick Harris in last night. It's a perfect piece of good casting, I think, for getting the people who might have watched How I Met Your Mother, or even Doogie Howser, MD, back in the day. I think that's perfectly reasonable and perfectly sensible. So I'm really a lot less worried about that than I would say most people.
Are you both finding that part of where some fandom has become very sensitized to some of the changes is partly because has the way the show's produced changed and its style? So, for example, yes, the Green Death covered environmental issues. We've seen them over time. I think some people will argue politics has always been in the background of Doctor Who. Is it more in the foreground of Doctor Who? Is that what people are sensing has changed? That rather than it was part of a story like a 6-part Green Death, you know, it was implicit in the plot, you know, the giant maggots, etc., people dumping waste. I mean, it's very relevant to us in rivers now and sewage. You know, it was there. Maybe how it was done wasn't too heavily laden. Do we find, you know, with producers are different now, you know, Russell Davies is no shrinking violet. And the way sometimes narratives are written, they tend to kind of really bring the actual political issue much more into the fore, I sometimes find. Do you think it's the production style has changed when we're comparing 70s to now that makes some people think you're preaching to me, you're shouting at your fans, you're talking about something else? Or do you think it is just, it's just the way TV's changed, the way Hollywood is doing things is different. Or do you think the messaging has got a lot stronger?
I don't feel preached to at all. Actually, I think that any fictionalized media is always about pushing either intentional or subconscious themes. And I was thinking about this the other day actually, and I was reading about Shakespeare, and even in his works there was stuff about politics in there. He was apparently he was like a massive monarchist and didn't trust the government, and actually a lot of his work kind of showed that. So I don't think you can expect to watch a story and not have some theme or something you pick up on, or a message or a story. I don't think that the writing in Doctor Who, I don't feel preached to. I just think we're more sensitive to it. I think we're a lot more media savvy. I think we're a lot more aware of spin. Talks to itself a lot more. I think Hugh, you said this earlier that I think when I was a kid watching Doctor Who, I didn't have access to fandom, or I didn't even have Doctor Who magazine. So kind of my reflection on Doctor Who would be like the end of an episode, and we'd be like, oh, that was good, and that was it. So I think that because fandom talks to itself a lot more, I think you kind of read stuff and you think, oh, it gets you thinking, and then you kind of pick up on that a lot more. So yeah, I think we're more sensitive to it, but I don't feel necessarily that I'm being shouted to. I think I'm just more aware of it.
Yeah, and to sort of link another couple of things together. The reaction politically, going back obviously to something like The Deadly Assassin, was about the horror in that at 5:30 on a Saturday night. It is, I think sometimes with what Russell Davies does, he sometimes does the preaching outside the programme.
Yeah.
But that's his selling.
Yeah.
Now, I mean to agree with some of the stuff he says, but I get why he's saying it, because it is that challenge. So yeah, he whatever you think about what Russell Davies has done, he is obviously this time, I think, more committed to making this the biggest show it could possibly be. I think last time he came in as a fan and was doing his best, he's doing the job that he'd always dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
And now I think he's trying to give something back to that. And again, I might disagree with some of how he goes about it, but I think it's very obvious that he wants this to be the biggest programme on television, and good luck to that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the ratings. What was it? Last night was 4.6 million. We've gone 5.0, 4.8, 4.6, which I was betting the other day. I thought a regeneration episode might bring people, it always gets a bit more interest and everything. Don't know why, because I saw that Strictly, that follows it, it's been increasing its audience. I know it's getting to the final. I'm a Celebrity's been increasing its audience, but that's going closer to a final. But Doctor Who was building to a regeneration. So it's interesting, isn't it? If he's building this mega beast that's going to hit the world and be very, very successful globally. Yeah, it's not teething problems. I'm just wondering what's going on, because fans or the general public haven't swamped to it as they did the first time round, especially during the Tennant era. I remember the excitement, even when we had Chris Eccleston, the excitement in the staff room at school from teachers who actually never said they really bothered watching Doctor Who before. And they said, I like this Eccleston character. I like the vibe. They like the Mancunian element. They liked that kind of northernness, they just said it was a bit street or something. And you could see people who weren't Doctor, you can see, you talk to some people and say, Doctor Who, not my thing, never has been. I've heard of it, never watch it. And during that period, I saw people starting to move into the Doctor Who realm, and so it's interesting how we are at the moment. I enjoyed last night's episode as a relevant context to this. I was happy, and then I saw the ratings and I thought, oh God, let's hope it gets fired up by Christmas and it continues to charge on.
So this again, I'll relate back to what I said. I thought the best bit was having a new Doctor. I think there was a certain amount of, we get David Tennant and Catherine Tate involved for the people who might have switched off during the end of the Chibnall era. I don't even think it's for them. We have to have something that's new. I think QC looks brilliant. The styling looks good. if the stories are up to it, that's what will make the difference in the end.
Mm.
I mean, I'm excited by Shooty, Niall. I mean, how did you find it when you saw the next Doctor?
Brilliant. I thought like really confident performance straight away, and I just felt really safe. And I just started smiling. I thought this is brilliant stuff. I feel like Russell T Davies is he reminds me a bit of JNT in a lot of ways. Like I was laughing at some of the sound bites. What was it? This episode is going to upset diehard fans. And of course, what do you do when you read that? You're like, oh, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
it just made me laugh because I just thought, oh, you're just a tease. You're just trying to. You've got your little part. You've got your little stick. Stir things up. But actually, that's what he should be doing. That's his job, is to kind of raise the profile of the show, and also things like celebrity cameos. Like he always does those. And I think I read, is it Shirley Ballas is going to be in an episode coming up? So it's all that kind of stuff. I just thought, oh, you're just like JNT. So yeah, no, I'm excited about the future. I think it's really good. I think new Doctor, brilliant. Happy with that.
And it looks as though, I mean, by the time you've had 15 Doctors plus a fugitive one, etc., how many different personalities can you introduce? Because it is hard, I think, as a story writer to suddenly go, I've got another Doctor, another actor. Now one's been cranky, one tried to strangle his companion, so I'll do a Capaldi version of that. Remember the first series of Capaldi? Then they softened him. You know, and you can see echoes all the way through of a bit of copying and all the rest of it. You know, Tennant and Jodie Whittaker, actually, I think they had a similar style. I think she tried to emulate him, a bit, for example. But it looks, from the Shooty 15 minutes, it looks like we're going to get a very different type of Doctor. I didn't think we could have one, but there's another type. He does have a swagger about him and a cheek and a sexiness, I have to say, to be honest.
Yeah, which they obviously worked on by not giving many choices.
Yeah, I mean, what's the definition of a binary generation? One half gets the clothes, and one half doesn't. I know. Actually, I've got a shot for the giggle where basically, as they're splitting, the red hot kind of regenerative power is where the groin is. I mean, actually was in the shot. It's just like, I don't know if that's where the show's going. I don't know.
No, I'd say I think that's the best thing about last night, and the best thing about the 3Cs is that looks like a slam dunk, and it was good, I think, to do the regeneration earlier than at the end, so you actually got him.
Yeah.
On the show. I think that was excellent, and I think that, you know, it then made me a lot happier just thinking, okay, there is a guy who appears to get it, who's going to do it, and that's fine, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I mean, to round up on our discussion tonight about canon, mythology, you know, global success, and how this show is going on. We had the Toy Maker last night. I know we will do Giggle, obviously, in detail on Tuesday night, as I'm advertising there, but we can mention in this kind of context, we brought back a piece of canon, you know, this Toy Maker. How did you think that depiction went and fitted into a good... Was it a good story last night? We've talked about good story writing and canon. Did we fit in a bit of canon, you could say, and a good story last night?
I think so. I think the depiction of the Toy Maker I thought was really good. There wasn't like that much of a callback to the Celestial Toy Maker, other than he's a previous villain, he's come back. There was a nice little bit where there was some colorized footage of the Celestial Toy Maker. I really liked that. But apart from that, you didn't need to know about it. It was just about the here and now. And actually, I thought that it was a really good job. I thought the depiction was really good. Liked it.
I'll save some of my criticisms in terms of the story for Tuesday, but I think, you know, for someone watching that, all they needed to know was that there was some history, and here was an interesting character, and there was an interesting character. The Doctor's reaction, you know, stuff like, you know, it mirrors what happens in the original series, but who cares about that? That's for people like us. I thought, again, you know, if you've got something like that, you can say, bring in an actor who is known outside of Doctor Who, who was having fun with it and who did a good job.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that was entire. You know, what you know, do all baddies now have to do dances to discos? But that might be my question after the Spice Girls falling on Boney M.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I enjoyed it.
Had a sense of
as a new thing.